Before the show, I just want to put a giant asterisk next to basically everything that is said in this video. I wrote the script about a couple years ago, and views may have changed, as well as a clustering of a lot of new My Little Pony comics from IDW, but all of that will be covered in another Binging on Comics if this gets good enough views. Yes, I have to start gauging what to do based on views instead of what'll be fun. Stupid YouTube. Okay, on with the show.
Hello and welcome to a very special episode of Binging on Comics. What's that? You already know the topic with the title, so I'll just do a bit of story time for you guys. My Little Pony was the reason I got my very first kiss. But no one wants to hear about the innocent time of my life when I was 5, young and foolish, playing with those little green plastic army men, and they were attacked by giant ponies all the time. Back when I had infinite possibility and full potential. Back when 10 minutes later. But no, schools had to come along and ruin a fragile little mind those sons of 16 minutes later. Number 72, the armbar. Oh, right. Enjoy the show.
Awesome! Awesome! It's time to be so awesome! Awesome! It's time to be so awesome!
You've no idea how hard it's been.
It's time to be awesome!
This dull routine we've been forced to do.
Don't let them rob you of who you are. Be awesome! It's all up to you.
I feel the light.
Do I even need to explain what My Little Pony is? It's a franchise that has been relatively popular with little girls for quite some time. However, it's changed so much since I was a kid that, well, maybe I'll do a super binge on all of the generations one day, but right now this is all about Gen 4. Generation 4 is the Friendship is Magic era, made after the reimagining of Transformers was such a critical hit. Yeah, I was surprised in how good Transformers Prime actually was too. Lauren Faust was brought in as creative developer, which meant that not only did she develop the look and characters for the new toy line, but she was also in charge of creating the tie-in show for the Hasbro Discovery Co-op channel, The Hub, which has since become, I think, Discovery Family. And this show was a surprise not only to Hasbro, but probably the rest of the known universe, since it became such a huge hit outside of its intended demographic, exploding out onto the internet like ash over Pompeii. With such popularity, as well as Hasbro's success with other comic book licenses, like G.I. Joe and Transformers, it was only logical to follow suit with such a hot franchise. And lo, IDW Publishing would be tasked with it. And boy howdy is it great! To make life simple, I'm going to be talking about these trades that I've either read or borrowed from friends, but we'll be going story by story. I'll also be talking about the show and may spoil some episodes, so like usual, general spoiler crossing signs now to cover my own flank from bronies. I'm also wrapping analysis and talent sections that I usually have into the talk about the plot and the books, so yeah, another warning on that one too. So let's skip the gabbing and start this. Volume 1 is the storyline called The Return of Queen Chrysalis, which was the first 4 issues written by the absolutely amazing duo of Katie Cook and Andy Price. Katie has worked with the Jim Henson Company on the Fraggle Rock and Storyteller comics, though everyone really needs to check out her webcomic Gronk, which gave me my newest fun phrase, smooch my tushy. Andy Price has illustrated for DC and Marvel, as well as the Quantum Leap comic and Word Girl, but if you don't have a toddler around the house, you probably have no idea who Word Girl is, which is kind of your loss, sadly. The story itself takes place as a follow-up to the Season 2 episode, A Canterlot Wedding, where the main villain, Queen Chrysalis, and her changelings were blasted off to a distant land by the power of love. Incidentally, they rise again because the land they were blasted off to was filled with the cuddly, wuddliest, loveliest animals. Regaining her strength, Queen Chrysalis plans her revenge on Twilight. Queen Chrysalis kidnaps citizens of Ponyville, replacing them with her changelings, so it's up to the main 6 to save the day, which culminates in Queen Chrysalis's true plan of stealing Twilight's magic. Now, these first issues set up an unbelievably amazing comic series. First things first, as a sequel to Canterlot Wedding, this is great. It's really the first time we've seen the return of a real villain. I say real villain because Discord is not so much a bad guy as just being a chaotic force, though not really malevolent, I would say. But these issues also mark something that really couldn't be in the show. Katie Cook brings a true all-ages feel to the book, adding a darker tone, though as she says herself that the darkest she would only go would be Dark Crystal territory, which you can really tell from this. And Andy Price also added tons more pop culture references in the art, which just unanimously has this pony bursting out the gate from the get-go. Ooh, and Pennywise the Dancing Clown is now a thing. If you want to see all the references that were made in issues 1 through 4, then do check out my All Things Referenced video. Then came the next storyline, Nightmare Rarity, which had Heather Newfer as writer and Amy Meberson with art. Heather Newfer has worked on other all-ages stories, such as a different Fraggle Rock comic, though I think that's a great way to start if you're trying to keep a steady feel between writers, and she's even worked on the Strawberry Shortcake comic. Amy Meberson is a cartoonist who's done so much for Disney, I'm surprised she hasn't been shackled to one of their radiators, never to be seen again. Actually, I think this is the same creative team from the Strawberry Shortcake comic. Huh. So, the main 6 are having nightmares for an entire week before they get together to have a slumber party. However, that night, Rarity is taken to the moon, where some dark smoky monsters possess her, and she becomes Nightmare Rarity. The main 6, well, the main 5, go to try and rescue her, but they are captured as Luna prepares Ponyville to defend against Nightmare Rarity's forces. As much as the first story really set up the comics world, this is most definitely a character-driven story. There's actually a really touching scene here that could probably never be in the show because it's kind of heartbreaking and involves Spike. Spike confronts Nightmare Rarity with a heart-shaped necklace she gave him earlier, trying to snap her out of the evil. She then offers him everything that he wants, to even be her king, but he throws down the locket and says that he loves her, but not like this. It's this moment that actually really hurt the episode Inspiration Manifestation from the show for me, as that episode wrote away Spike's personality and traits so he could be all, doesn't matter, she digs me. Though the continuous clipping of Spike as a character is something me and the TV show will have out one day. Next, the third volume are 2 slice-of-life stories, with the returning Katie Cook and Andy Price as the creative team. Yes, they are totally recurring forces on the comics. First is Zen and the Art of Gazebo Repair, which is issues 9 and 10 of the series. We get a Big Mac story! While only 2 issues, this is a pretty great 2-parter focusing in on Big Mac, needing to fix a gazebo while the summer wrap-up fair is going on. It's not a prolific story to the franchise, but as a Big Mac fan, it is a great thing to see a day in the life of Big Macintosh, the only male pony in the series not an antagonistic foil, a mopey crybaby, or a joke character. Sorry, Snowflake. The other story is Nay Anything. Shining Armor and Princess Cadence retell the story of how they met. Shining Armor, the nerdy kid who hung out with his equally nerdy friends, playing oubliettes and ogres, and Princess Cadence is the unobtainable, yet kind popular girl. This plot really is straight out of a John Hughes film, only without nerds with guns, or John Cryer. Actually, I do believe there's a John Cryer pony in there. While cliched, it really is a sweet story, though like the Big Mac story, it's a slice of life that's nothing monumental, but it is a fun read. Volume 4 is also dual-storied, with the first being Friendship Ahoy, and has Heather Newfer return as writer, but Brenda Hickey comes in as the new artist, even colorist. Brenda Hickey has been an artist on mostly independent work, with this being one of the few mainstream comics under her belt, and it's IDW, so that's not too shabby of a push. So what's the story? We have pirate ponies! No, not like in the movie. This high seas adventure has the main 6 joining a pirate in his search for a treasure, all the while having Fluttershy unable to release one of her animal friends into the ocean. It's a fun adventure tale with a twist towards the end that gives it a heart.
What else is there to say than it has a good old-fashioned pirate bar fight in it?
Now, I can't find a name for this story, but issues 15 and 16 has Newfer and Meberson reuniting for a very neat concept. Twilight returns to her library one day to find a magical bookworm devouring all of her books, while all across town strange cocoons are appearing. The cocoons stir, and out pops the villains of Twilight's books. But the main 6 have their own problems to deal with when they get trapped in their own stories. This is probably the most interesting character building story, because the main 6 not only are trapped in stories they like, but actually create their own stories as well. My personal favorite part is the noir story from Best Pony Rarity, created called Dial S for Sassy, which actually comes out in one of the episodes as well. The whole story really does expand on who the characters are, while being a pretty grand adventure with tons of literary references, rather than just the pop culture ones, though they are very pop-lit nods, so it still fits into that. And the final volume I'll be talking about is called Reflections, which covers issues 17 through 20. This epic 4-parter is by Katie Cook and Andy Price. Again. Oh no! Princess Celestia goes through a magic mirror. But before you start getting Equestria Girls flashback, she's actually going to the obvious mirror universe that every show from Hercules' Legendary Journey to Star Trek has. What's even more of a shock is that the handsome and good King Sombra and our Celestia become an item, if you know what I mean. But Celestia's prolonged tryst in the mirror world means that the main six can't hurt the evil Celestia without hurting the good Celestia. Dun dun dun! But seriously, this does something that no other MLP anything has ever done for me, and that is actually make me feel for Princess Celestia. But even every other pony gets a time to shine, and the references are amped up to an 11, as well as a kinda surreal aspect to the mirror world. I mean, in that world, the great and powerful Trixie is the Princess of Humility, and that one derpy-eyed Pegasus that we aren't supposed to talk about is Wisdom. Yeah, spooky, I know. Now, that's not the last story that I read as of this video, especially since I wrote this video, 3 years ago, but there were stories like Trixie trying to show she's turned over a new leaf in issues 21 and 22, which was fairly good, though I don't know, I've always been wishy-washy on Trixie ever being air-quote good, but only because she's never really been evil. Ghostbusters, yes, she was an antagonist and a braggart, sure, but not bad, and I don't like talking about her other appearance with, that amulet. And 23 is a no-speech issue, as the pony pets have to band together and save the day when their masters are brainwashed into breaking a dam. That's not too shabby either. Of course, my favorite that I may talk about it in a sequel video to this, if this video does well, is when all the main six become vampire ponies. It's really nifty. You can see a lot of those reviews and talks on the Archivist Facebook page. Now, the presentation for the main series is very much in tune with the My Little Pony show, however, since it isn't reliant on flash-based animation, there is a ton more facial expressions and cartoony looks. And I have heard a few people say that they dislike it because it doesn't have the same vibrant brightness that the show had, but I think that it is worth the slightly heavier inks and even sour faces sometimes to get truly epic stories, such as the entirety of Ponyville standing to fight against Nightmare Rarity. There's just something awesome about the cakes ready to kick butt. Seriously, even if you aren't a fan of My Little Pony, I think the Nightmare Rarity arc is one of the universally good stories you should get, but more on that at the end of the video. However, I am not done yet. As I said, let's take a gander to the other two big comic series for MLP that was coming out at the time, the Micro Series and Friends Forever. First, the Micro Series, which is a series of one-shots for each big-name character. In order, and doing a lightning round, Twilight is sent to help an ice queen of a librarian, Jade Singer. I see what you did there. Rainbow Dash has to deal with the cloud gremlins that cause them feed off depression. She also does a double rainboom. Rarity teaches a bunch of hippies how to sell out so they don't get bought out by the Flim Flam brothers. Fluttershy enters a contest where snobs snub her, but Celestia loves her work, thus showing the frailty of the elite. Pinky's favorite clown, Pony Poniachi, is retiring, but she talks him into opening up a training school because he still loves the clowning trade. Applejack and family have to deal with the Sasquatch monster that turns their apple crop into squashes. The Cutie Mark Crusaders find a mimicker who can change into any non-pony object and abuse her powers to the point where she runs away. Princess Celestia has to put herself against the Pony Teacher Association when they want a professor at her school to retire. Spike gets a packet of sea beasts and we get a very limited evolution of civilization. Princess Luna gets dissed by Celestia, so Luna takes over the challenge of being the Daylight Princess for a day, to everyone's horror. There's 2 volumes out collecting the first 5 and the last 5 issues called MLP Ponytails. These are all done by different writers, including the series' most popular writer, Katie Cook. Then there's the Friends Forever comics, which are like the micro series, but instead of focusing on one character, it's a buddy pairing book. Yay! I'm going to be a bit vaguer with this since the plots really aren't the focus, but the interactions between the duos is. First is Pinkie Pie and Applejack in a baking contest. The Cutie Mark Crusaders have Discord warp reality when they run out of ideas to get their cutie marks. Princess Celestia drops her duties to go with Spike to get special crystals for a telescope for Twilight. Twilight goes and visits her brother Shining Armor in the Crystal Empire. Fluttershy can understand what the animals are saying, but Sakura can't find a reason why. This also has a very sweet appearance by Discord, by the way. The great and powerful Trixie is trapped as ruler of the Diamond Dogs, incidentally because they think she can douse for gems like Rarity, but Rainbow Dash is around to help her. Currently, the last 3 hadn't come out yet when I wrote this. I like them, and the pairings are Princess Luna and Pinkie Pie, Applejack and Rarity, and the last and probably the most interesting, I think, was Granny Smith and the Flim Flam brothers. Both the micro-series and Friends Forever are really fun reads. Oh, and let's of course not forget the My Little Pony Annual 2013, which was a collection of tales based off Equestria Girls, which if you didn't hate EG, then this is a decent bunch of stories. And if you like the Power Ponies, then Annual 2014 is right up your alley. But as of the time of writing this, it hadn't come out yet, so I can't give any big things on it. But after the fact, I have read it, so it is good, definitely pick it up. So, what's my verdict on the IDW MLP FIM franchise? Well, on my standard grading curve, I would say that they are all, at the very least, a read it to general audiences. With their more all-ages tone, even those that feel that FIM is just a kids show, these could really open them up with a different art style and the reference-laden writing. Again, check out my video, All Things Referenced, for a good look at the first volume to see what I mean there. However, if you are a brony or a Pegasus or whatever you call yourselves nowadays, then these are definitely a collect it. Collect it means that you should not only have a trade for reading, but have the individual issues for posterity and looking at some really decent covers. Even check out the other IDW pony books, like Fiends Forever, the antagonist-centric book, or generally most everything they put out for the MLP license. Now, before I go into my usual self-plugs and begging for patrons, especially nowadays, I want to say something truly from the heart. There have been 2 My Little Pony YouTubers that have been perfect since the first time I caught their shows, and each of them have made an impact on me, not just as entertainers, but on a personal level. Be it just someone else making a henshin joke that floored me, or really getting to the heart of issues and ideas on his big comfy couch. So, Silver Quill and Dr. Wolf, I do thank you, because if I never saw either of your channels, I wouldn't have ever tried My Little Pony. And I probably wouldn't have had the want to follow through with doing this show, even if this episode is a couple years overdue. Yes, I know that still doesn't sound too good when my show's this mediocre, but hey, credit where credit's due. So blame them. Links to their channels are in the description. Okay, so with that mush out of the way, if you agree with me that the comics are something else, or if you disagree and think this is more pony tripe, let me know in the comments below. And while you're leaving a comment, let me know the next comic I should do for Binging on Comics. Also, hit that like button and subscribe if you do like it. Like me on Facebook, follow me on Twitter, and please give a gander over to my Patreon, which also covers the other shows on this channel, like Super Binge, where I look at an entire character's publication history, ComicSins, the CinemaSins knockoff for comic readers, and First Issues Now, where I talk about the first issues, be they recent, old, manga, or webcomic. But more than any of that, stay golden, Inklings.
Let them rob you of who you are. Be awesome, it's all up